Hello, sisters and brothers. Again, thank you for being part of this Easter series. And this is an Easter series that has its focus on justice. And for this part, we are considering the theme, Salvation Betrayed. Now, this is the heart of a heart-wrenching moment in the story of Jesus. It's a moment that defines betrayal, darkness, and the cost of salvation. I'm talking about the betrayal of Jesus by Judas. Now, in the shadow of the Passion Week, this betrayal is more than just a story of treachery. It is a story about the betrayal of truth, the betrayal of justice, and the price that Jesus paid for the salvation of the world. Now, in Matthew 26 and Luke 22, we find Jesus in the upper room, surrounded by his closest followers, one of whom would betray him in the hands of his enemies. This betrayal would lead to his arrest, trial, and ultimately his crucifixion. But in the midst of this, we see a profound truth. The salvation of humanity came at the cost of betrayal. Today, as we reflect on salvation betrayed, we'll explore the darkness of betrayal and its consequences for salvation. We'll look at the irony of Judas's actions and how justice often gets betrayed in the world, and also the role of the church in resisting betrayal and upholding salvation. Now, let's begin with Matthew 26, specifically verse 20 to 25, where Jesus shares a final meal with his disciples. As they sat around the table, Judas says, "Truly I tell you," no, Jesus says, not Judas. Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." Now, Jesus doesn't give a name at first, but his disciples are horrified by the possibility. They begin to ask, "Is it I, Lord?" But then Jesus identifies the betrayer when he says, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me." Now, Judas was right there, sitting at the table, eating with Jesus. He was in the very presence of salvation, and yet chose to betray the one who came to redeem him. Judas' betrayal wasn't a mere act of malice, it was an act of spiritual blindness. He chose darkness over light. He betrayed Jesus not for a mere disagreement, but for 30 pieces of silver, a price that couldn't even cover the cost of a slave in the days of Jesus. Now, this cost of betrayal, we find that it is the highest form of rejection. In a world where justice is often betrayed by those who have power, we see in the action of Judas a reflection of our own failure to embrace the fullness of the gospel. Judas had been with Jesus, heard his things, heard his teachings, and witnessed his miracles, yet he chose greed over faith. Now, in a similar way, we see how many in society today choose personal gain over the well-being of the oppressed. We see this in systems that betray justice for the rich and powerful, and individuals who sell their souls for fame or fortune. The betrayal of truth often leads to, yes, profound darkness. Now, when we look at Luke 22, specifically verse 47 to 53, which provides us with a dramatic moment of the arrest of Jesus, we find Judas coming with a crowd of armed men and gives Jesus, yes, a kiss, the sign of betrayal. Jesus, knowing full well that Judas was the one who had already made the deal, speaks to him with sadness. He says to Judas, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? Now, this is where we see the irony of the actions of Judas. A kiss, a gesture of love and intimacy, was used as the instrument of betrayal. Judas, his betrayal, was not only an action of treason, but also an act of spiritual contradiction. He pretended to love Jesus, but his actions showed otherwise. This indeed is a mockery of justice. The betrayal of Jesus by Judas is a tragic irony. He was willing to sell his soul for silver, but in doing so, he sold out salvation itself. There is something deeply ironic about the world and how the world often exchanges eternal values for temporary gains. This is why injustice is so pervasive. People prefer the kiss of betrayal over the truth of justice. Whether in corruption, exploitation, or oppression, the kiss of betrayal often masquerades as something kind when it's the ultimate act of injustice. And we ask ourselves then, what would then be the response of the church to such a betrayal? Now, as we move deeper into the Easter season, we are reminded of the cost of salvation, and the betrayal of Jesus was the prelude to his crucifixion. And yet, it did not stop the mission of God. God's salvation plan could not be derailed by betrayal. The actions of Judas didn't surprise Jesus, it fulfilled prophecy instead. But what does this mean for us as Christians, as the church today? We need to resist betrayal. As followers of Christ, we are called to resist betrayal, whether in our personal lives or in society. We must stand for the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. We must reject the kiss of betrayal that pretends to be kindness but undermines justice. In the face of corruption, injustice, and oppression, the church cannot be silent. We must uphold the values of salvation and stand firm against betrayal in all its forms. Now, we need also to focus on fulfilling the mission of salvation. Jesus did not let betrayal stop his mission. He embraced his fate to bring salvation to the world. Similarly, the church must not allow betrayal to stop the work of justice. The church must not allow betrayal to stop the work also of salvation. In times when we are betrayed by the systems we trust, or when we face the mockery of the world, we are called to stand firm in our faith and continue the work of justice. We are called to spread the gospel of salvation even when we are rejected, even when we are mocked. Now, the church remains the voice of hope. Now, in a broken world where betrayal often leads to injustice, the church must be the voice of hope. We must be the alternative to betrayal, the place where justice, mercy, and truth reign. We must remember that even though Jesus was betrayed, he still won the victory. And Jesus won the victory, and because of him, we too can overcome betrayal and injustice. Church, my fellow Christians, as we reflect on the betrayal of Jesus, let us not forget the cost of salvation that was paid with a kiss of betrayal. But the betrayal did not defeat God's purpose. As we journey through this Holy Week, let us examine our own hearts. Are there places where we have betrayed justice? Are there places where we have betrayed the mission of salvation? Let us remember that though the world may betray us, God's salvation remains unshaken. Christ's victory over betrayal is our victory today. May we be faithful to uphold justice, to stand against betrayal, and to continue the work of salvation that Jesus began, no matter the cost. One more time. May we be faithful to uphold justice, to stand against betrayal, and to continue the work of salvation that Jesus began, no matter the cost. Amen.